Apple Blitz with Anthony Rivardo and Matt O'Leary.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Big Apple Blitz, an NFL schedule release edition. What's going on? Matt O'Leary with Anthony Rivardo. Anthony, how are you?
I am doing fine today. The Giants' schedule has some interesting takeaways. The Giants' new uniforms are pretty ugly. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in the show. But I guess it's interesting, things are starting to heat up. Schedule's here. We could talk about that and maybe do some record predictions and all that. But definitely getting a little bit down today after seeing the atrocity of a uniform that the Giants decided to drop.
Yeah, it's hard to blame you. We'll do that in the second half of the show today after we go through both of these teams' schedules. We'll start with the Jets schedule. Let me pull that up. So there's kind of cool. I had an opportunity to break the Jets schedule, which I'm not a news breaker usually, but had it on what was yesterday, Wednesday, so Tuesday night. And my plug was right. He was right last year, but I was scared to go with it. And this year I said, I'm not chickening out. And I ran with it and we hit. So, all right, here we go. We'll go through each one of these games. Start with the 49ers on the road. Then on the road against Tennessee in week 2. Home openers, Thursday night football against the New England Patriots, followed by a home game against the Denver Broncos in week 4. London, week 5 against the Vikings. Back home, no bye week after London. Back home against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Then a Sunday night game on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. New England on the road, a 1 o'clock slate. Back to a Thursday night game on Halloween against the Houston Texans. Cardinals on the road November 10th. November 17th, Sunday night game against the Colts at home before the bye in week 12. Out of the bye, you get the Seahawks at home, Dolphins on the road, Jaguars on the road. So back-to-back in your state, in Florida, followed by the Rams at home, on the road against Buffalo, and then at home against the Miami Dolphins. So first takeaway from this New York Jets schedule, what are you thinking?
One thing I immediately noticed, we both have the Pittsburgh Steelers on prime time. Interesting enough as that is. You guys have them, week 7 on Sunday night. We have them week 8 on Monday night. So I guess the NFL likes the Steelers, wants them playing New York in prime time back-to-back weeks. A few primetime games for the Jets, though. I think it's cool that they're starting out week 1 and Monday night. Again, getting that do-over from last year. That's pretty exciting in my mind. And yeah, they're on the national spotlight. What is that? 6 times there, so plenty of action for the Jets, for the whole country to hopefully see Aaron Rodgers have his bounce back campaign, or if things don't go according to plan, it might be really difficult to watch the Jets every Monday and Sunday night again. So hopefully it goes according to plan though this time.
Yeah, last year not so great after that first game. Although, the Jets played a good game against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football early on last year. It was an entertaining one. So there was at least a good one before you got into those Chargers and Raiders primetime games as the year went on. But
to that Zach Wilson clinic against the Chiefs too. I mean, that was the game.
Everyone, I had the truthers in the mention saying this guy, this is what he's going to be for the rest of his career. And I was like, please, I would sign up for that kind of performance we saw from Zach Wilson every week. Unfortunately, he turned into a pumpkin very quickly and things did not work out that way. But you mentioned it. The primetime games to me are what jumps out. 6 primetime games. If you want to include the London game as a standalone game, 7, and all within the first 11 weeks of the year. To me, this is the NFL trying to get the Jets on the national stage while everyone's still healthy early on in the year. That's what this feels like to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway, and I do think that that generally speaking, there is just a lot of excitement around the Jets right now, and probably just pushing them into the spotlight as early as possible when their roster is still great. Even if the Jets are losing games early in the season, there's always going to be that hope that because their roster is so stacked that they can turn it around. So it's worth having them on the spotlight and in the primetime games early on in the season anyway. I think that would also be my line of thinking. And also, I think it's going to be exciting to see these new jerseys in action on the primetime spotlight early and often. So that's another thing to look forward to.
Yeah, the 49ers and Jets potential uniform combo to start off the year is
Oh, yeah.
is exciting. I'm in on that. It's I think you look at it for me, you start your toughest game of the year is in week 1. I don't really see anywhere else on the schedule where you could look at and say that's going to be the Jets' toughest spot. Starting the year on the road in San Francisco, tough.
So that being said, this team going 17-0 if they win that game.
That's going to be the conversations on Tuesday. I apologize. Yeah, I apologize in advance for that Thursday, excuse me, episode after week 1 with the Jets win. The chat is going to be flooded with this team is going to the Super Bowl. I'm just telling you right now. I'm apologizing in advance because it's coming.
Yeah. I'm not sure we're going to feel the same way after the Giants lost to the J.J. McCarthy-led Vikings in week 1, but we'll get there eventually. I mean, listen, though, you are right. I think this is a pretty favorable schedule for the New York Jets. I mean, maybe they'll have some tough run-ins, I guess, early predictions with the Rams, I think, are going to be a good team again. Of course, Buffalo can't rule them out. Miami, of course, can't rule them out. The Texans, that's another tough one there. But, yeah, that 49ers game stands out as the toughest on the schedule, and it is in week 1, which is something that you love to see. So as long as everybody makes it out of week 1 healthy this year, I think that you feel good about going through the rest of the season with a lot of favorable matchups on there, like the Titans, the Broncos, even the Steelers, I would say, are favorable. The Jags, the Seahawks. Yeah, this is a good looking schedule in the eyes of Jets fans, I would assume.
Yeah, when looking at it, Warren Sharp had the Jets with the 4th easiest schedule, which is I'll take that. After everything Jet fans have been through for the last 13 years, I want this team to make the playoffs and make some noise this year. But if you're going to get the 49ers, I'd rather get them early because they kind of tend to start slow before they hit their stride. Last year was the anomaly. They started 5-0. Then got cold, and then they heat it right back up again. But normally it's a team that gets hot in November, December going into the playoffs. But after that game, you kind of get the potential three rookie quarterbacks in a row with Drake May, Bo Nix, and JJ McCarthy in weeks 3, 4, and 5. And I saw somewhere in the last, I believe it was in the last decade, rookie quarterbacks are like 40 games under 500 in the first 5 weeks of the year. I'll give you the exact number in a second. Hang on. It is in the last decade, rookie quarterbacks are just 36 and 76, which is a 325 win percentage in weeks 1 through 5.
Well, that's also a good thing for the Giants. We'll get there in a little bit, but yeah, that's exciting for both teams.
That's for sure. But you mentioned some of the tougher games. To me, on the short week against Houston, it's a home game, thankfully, instead of on the road. But that I think is going to be a very tough game. I'm kind of coming away with the division. If the Jets could split with the Dolphins and the Bills, I'd be happy with that. I think you have to take care of business and beat the Pats twice. But if you go 4-2 in the division, I think you're putting yourself in a really good spot to where you could win the AFC East, actually.
Yeah, like I said, those Dolphins and those Jets games are not those Jets games. Those Bills games are ones that you can't rule out. Those can be tough games. Those could be losses. Those could be wins. It's really important in the AFC East more so than in a few other divisions. I think that winning those divisional games are an absolute must because those are 3 playoff contending teams. You would assume that the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills are all going to be fighting for playoff spots later on in the season. So picking up those wins and getting your divisional record in a good standing is of the utmost importance for the Jets, more so than it is for other divisions. Like I said, some of these weaker divisions, like the NFC South last year, for example, it's just a bunch of bad teams in there. But the competitive nature of the AFC East, you want to be able to have that divisional record tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And then just, looking at how the Jets closed the season with back-to-back games, one on the road against the Bills and then at home against Miami. That's two very, very important games. And honestly, I could see that last game of the year coming down to whoever wins that game ends up being the AFC East champion, kind of a thing. Like both teams in a playoff spot, and the loser ends up a wild card. But I think those last two games really are going to have a lot of playoff implications on the line.
I agree with you 100%.
Now, all right, we'll put each other. I'm going to put you on the spot with some record predictions. What are you thinking looking at this schedule for the Jets? Where do you have them coming in at?
I think there's going to be a couple losses in the division, just again because it's such a difficult division. And I don't think they beat the 49ers in week 1, but I think it's going to be a competitive and exciting game. And maybe 1 to 2 sleeper losses in there. I'm thinking 12 wins for this team, which is probably where we had them in the first place. But even looking at the schedule with some of the takeaways that we had, not much changes for me. I still think about 12 wins is kind of the easy prediction for this Jets team as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think 10 is the floor and 12 is kind of the ceiling. So I'm going to split the difference and go 11-6. I split with the Bills and the Dolphins. I don't think they beat the 49ers also. I think the Texans on the short week is tough. I'm going to chalk that one up as a loss. And then kind of like 2 random ones. I think the Steelers game, I think, could be a little bit of a trap game, stuck in between the Bills and the Pats 2 divisional games. And then the other one that makes me a little bit nervous is Minnesota and London, because I think maybe they're looking ahead to that big matchup at home on Monday Night Football the following week. And it feels like every year there's games where you don't expect your team to win and they pull it off, or you don't expect them to lose and they lose. So I'm trying to go a little bit more on the conservative side with the record prediction and hope that they overachieve my expectations. But I do think 11 is enough to win the division. I think Bills, Dolphins, Jets, all 3 of those teams finish with 9+ wins. So I think they kind of beat up on each other, and the Jets at 11-6, I think could win the AFC East with that record.
Yeah, I think so too. I think 12 wins. I have a lot of faith in the roster construction. Like I keep saying in pretty much every episode, there's not a shortage of talent. There's just question marks about the coaching of this team. I'm not necessarily a full-on believer of Robert Saleh. I'm definitely not a believer of Nathaniel Hackett. So we'll see ultimately how this coaching staff puts this team together and how these players perform. But I definitely have confidence in this Jets roster to win 10 to 12 games, like I said. And I think that if they stay healthy and if things go according to plan, they can definitely put together 12 wins.
Before we get to the Giants schedule, just want to go through with the chat, say what's up to people. Allie's in here saying that Rodgers versus the 49ers storyline is a fun one. So that's interesting, right? Because he goes all the way back to the 2005 draft. They take Alex Smith instead, which was a little bit of a surprise. Rodgers goes much later. In the regular season, he's been awesome against the 49ers. 6-3, 20 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. Pretty dominant. In the playoffs, though, against the 49ers, 0-4. So they've kind of had his numbers come playoff time. But it's a team that he's played against a ton in his career. So I agree with Ali. I think that's going to be a fun storyline.
No, I do too. That is definitely a cool one to keep an eye on.
First State Jet says, if you can't beat those teams, meaning the 49ers, you don't deserve it. Got to prove you are a contender by winning these games. Table is set with the talent and schedule. Time to execute. Yeah, honestly, to me, like we already knew the opponents. It's kind of just getting the order now of these games, but I'm coming away with the schedule. Like there's no excuses anymore. That like I don't want to hear an injury excuse this year. It's time for both Saleh and Douglas to be a playoff team in 2024.
No, I 100%. Listen, injuries are going to happen, but even still, the Jets learned their tough lesson last year with Aaron Rodgers going down, and they hopefully made the right move this year to bring in a backup quarterback that can win them games in a pinch with Tyrod Taylor. So even if they do have injuries, you still got to hold people accountable at the end of the year if they don't make the postseason, in my opinion. They made every move possible. They added talent on offense, talent on defense, all over the place. This roster got better. The coaching staff needs to deliver in 2024. It's really that put up or shut up here.
Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley says, I agree with you, Matt. 11 wins, possibly 12, and making the playoffs by hopefully winning the AFC East at the very least. We've already seen some people being like 13 wins for the Jets this year, and I would love to see it, but I've never seen that in my life, Anthony, so I can't go out there and predict it. The Jets franchise record for wins is 12. They were 12-4 in 1998. The best team I've seen, I was only 3, so I don't really count that year. Best team I've seen was the 2010 Jets, who went 11-5. So like 12 plus wins is like a foreign language to me. I don't know if my brain can compute that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I was predicting a historically good Jets team when I said 12 wins. Maybe I got to lower my prediction down to 10 to 11. I'm not sure. But no, I do think 12, 13, because of this roster, is a possibility because of the schedule being so favorable. It's possible for the Jets, but yeah, it's tough to bank on it when history indicates so sharply that that's not going to be the case. And as we know, football is pretty random. There's a lot of unexpected twists and turns in the sport every year throughout the schedule. So predicting 13 plus wins for a team is really difficult to do unless you're talking about the prime New England Patriots led by Tom Brady. But we're not talking about that. We are talking about a Jets team that does have some question marks all across the board, really. So predicting anything higher than 12, I think, is really pushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll remain pleasantly surprised if it's anything more than that. But I think if your expectation is that, probably setting yourself up for some disappointment. Let's get into the Giants schedule. We'll pull them up here. You got an opener at home against the Minnesota Vikings, the JJ McCarthy, or maybe Sam Darnold led Minnesota Vikings. On the road, Washington week 2, on the road against the Browns in week 3. Then you get Thursday night game at home against the Cowboys in week 4, Seattle on the road week 5, a Sunday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals at home in week 6, against the Eagles in week 7, on the road, a Monday night game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Then you're back at home against Washington in week 9. Week 10, Germany against the Carolina Panthers before your week 11 bye. Out of the bye, you get the Bucks at home, 1:00 game. Then you get the Thanksgiving game against the Dallas Cowboys. You get the Saints in week 14 at home, Ravens week 15 at home, on the road against Atlanta, at home against the Indianapolis Colts, and then on the road against, guess who, the Philadelphia Eagles to close out the season. What were your first thoughts and takeaways from this Giants schedule?
Yeah, so a few off the bat, I'm surprised that we're in the national spotlight so many times. We only got 3 primetime games, not a ton, but you have to also factor in the fact that we're playing in Germany, so another nationally televised game, and we are playing on Thanksgiving Day. It's in the afternoon, so again, technically not a primetime game, but everybody's going to be watching football on Thanksgiving. So 5 times we're in the national spotlight. That was definitely a surprise to me. I thought it would be 3 at the most. Very shocked that they decided to put the Giants on Thanksgiving, knowing the status of this team, knowing what happened last time the Giants played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Competitive in the first half, blowout in the second half. Very surprised to see that. And also just think the primetime matchups with the Bengals and the Steelers are super random. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? What are the storylines there?
I'm with you on that. I don't get the Bengals one at all, really. Like, I understand the Bengals being in prime time a lot, good team, Joe Burrow coming back, but a Sunday night game against the Giants just feels strange. There's no rivalry there. There's no real storyline there. I got with Pittsburgh, like 2 storied franchises, I guess you could spin it. And on a Monday night that is a little bit different, but the Sunday night game against the Bengals stuck out to me as one of the more bizarre ones on the schedule. That one I didn't understand.
Yeah, it feels like they're setting themselves up there, putting Giants Bengals on a Sunday night that's going to be month 2 of the season. So that's going to be when we already know if the Giants are terrible. It's probably just going to turn into a blowout where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase hang 40 on us, which is totally in the realm of possibility. I guess maybe the other angle I could see, Burrow and Chase, LSU boys. Giants just went LSU in the first round with Malik Neighbors. Maybe that's the storyline. Outside of that, again, that one was so random to me. I was like, why are we playing the Bengals in prime time? But playing Dallas in prime time on a Thursday, I do think it's funny that we're playing Dallas twice on Thursday. We don't have any Sunday, Monday matchups, just 2 Thursday matchups with the Dallas Cowboys, which is pretty weird. But yeah, overall, it's a really difficult schedule is what I'll say. Weeks 1 and 2, we face those rookie quarterbacks. Good chance we do start the season off 2-0, which is nice. But then you go to the Browns, you got the Cowboys, you've got Seattle, you've got Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. That is a gauntlet right there for a really bad Giants team. So weeks 3 through 8, I think it's really tough for the Giants to even squeak out one win in that schedule based on what we saw last year. Again, maybe this team surprises us. Maybe Danny Dimes comes back and plays like Prime Brady. I've referenced Prime Brady twice in this episode today. I don't know how that happened. Totally possible. Not very likely, though. So that weeks 3 to week 8 stretch is going to be really difficult, and I think ultimately going to be the 2 months that sink our season.
I was going to say, my question to you was, in that week 6 game, do we think we see the backpack Drew Lock? Is he coming out is that his first start as the New York Giant?
I guess it's possible. It's totally possible. I mean, hopefully we see him a couple of weeks sooner than that, but doubtful. I don't know how long it'll take for them to get there. I am excited for the Germany game, though. I think Brian Burns versus his former team in Germany, that'll be fun. I know the Giants have worked really hard to build a fan base overseas, not only just in London, but also in Germany. So that one's pretty exciting. I think that'll be cool. It does give us a pretty late bye week in week 11, but yeah, that's another one of the matchups. Plus, it's against the Panthers. It's winnable. So if I'm getting up at 9:30, I want to be able to watch my team win a game. Or I'm not getting up. Obviously, I'm up. But if I'm watching a game at 9:30, I want to see my team win a game. So hopefully I actually get that against the Panthers.
Well, I agree with you, and this is I don't hope this happens. I want the Giants to be competitive, so we have a lot of fun in the regular season on Mondays and Thursdays. That could be a big tankathon game, though.
That could be. You are totally right.
That could be a big matchup there, but it's good that you're not, like, obviously going overseas. That I understand why they're trying to expand the sport and stuff like that, but at least you're not losing a home game there. It is technically a road game, even though it's a road game for both teams. In that spot, I think you get some tough defenses outside of that first 2 games, which is another thing that worries me about this Giants schedule. Browns, one of the best defenses in the league last year. The Cowboys with that defense is going to be tough. Pittsburgh always has a tough defense. I think the Eagles defense is going to be much improved this year. This is rough, man. Looking at this schedule, it starts okay. First 2 games, you're in a pretty good spot. After that, it's going to be tough sledding to the bye, I think.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you. And if you're looking at the defenses, obviously going against this Giants offense that finished 29th in the NFL, but for a long time, they had a period of games there last season where they were the worst offense in the league. Well, they've got to face the first-ranked Browns defense in week 3, the 5th-ranked Cowboys defense in weeks 4 and 13. They've got the 4th-ranked Panthers defense, which shocked me when I was doing my research. I found out that the Panthers defense ranked 4th in total yards allowed. Face them in week 10. Ravens, 6th-ranked defense in week 15. So there are a number of really solid defenses on the schedule, as you said. The numbers back that up, and those games are going to be really tough for a Giants offense that's likely led by Daniel Jones, although that later game against the Baltimore Ravens, hopefully we're getting a little Tommy DeVito action in there. That's what I'm hoping for. Probably some Drew Lock, but maybe we get some cutlets against Baltimore. I would like to see that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would be cool. I'm in on the Giant. I don't want it to seem like I'm super down and negative on this team, but I think I'd be surprised if the Giants had just one quarterback start all 17 games. I think there's a good chance you see all 3.
I think there's a good chance you see all 3. And I think that you can almost guarantee you see at least 2 because not only – listen, even if Daniel Jones is playing well, we've talked about this before, he's got to be playing great for them to not put him on the bench because of that injury clause in his contract. But even if he's playing well, and I'm not talking about him getting benched here, he's missed time with injury in every single season of his career outside of 2022. That was the anomaly. So if you're banking on career history and looking at the past of players and their injuries that they've had to inform the future, Daniel Jones is probably getting hurt at some point this year. And then it's just going to become a question of when he's healthy and able to return from that injury, do they put him back in the lineup or do they shut him down for the year? That's going to be the question mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you're almost in a spot, like, why start him at all? We've seen him get hurt early in the year. Last year against the Dolphins was what, week 6? Was it that he got hurt? I don't remember off the top of my head. Forgive me for putting you on the spot there. But, like, it's not impossible that he that he doesn't get hurt in the first half of this year. I understand, doing the Russell Wilson where he got benched, what was it, the last month or so of the season, but is he going to make it to week 14 healthy? His history says he might not.
I don't think so. I think he's at least getting banged up at one point. And again, like I said, because of that injury clause, I mean, if he can't pass that physical in March, the Giants owe him an extra $25 million about. So if he gets hurt like he did last year, I think using week 5 against the Dolphins is a good example. Goes down with that neck injury. I think he missed 4 weeks. He missed 3 weeks with the injury, comes back in week 9, tears his ACL. So let's say he gets hurt in weeks somewhere between 4 and 6 again. Let's just call it week 5. If he gets hurt in week 5 again and he takes 3-4 weeks to get back in the lineup, that if he tears his ACL or has a season-ending injury at that point, he won't pass that physical in March. Therefore, even if he's ready to get back on the field, you just can't put him back on the field. So unless Jones is playing lights out football against the Browns in week 3, the Cowboys in week 4 on a short week, unless he's really lighting up the scoreboard in those games, you just can't justify putting him back on the field if he gets hurt at any point this season in the early portions of the year.
Peter says, sorry, Anthony, you thinking 6 or 7 wins for the G-Men then? Let's maybe get into some record predictions.
Yeah, I'm predicting I think we're going to beat Washington twice, and I think we beat Minnesota in week 1 just because of how favorable that matchup is in the first week of J.J. McCarthy's career. And I like our chances against the Panthers. And outside of that, I'm going to say 5 wins. I'm sure that we'll sneak one out at some point, but okay. I'm going 5. 7 is the max that I see on this schedule personally.
That's kind of where I am as well. I'm gonna go 6. My initial gut was 6-11 when I saw this. I'm thinking split with Washington, and then split with one of Dallas or the Eagles. Maybe like week 18, they're resting their starters, kind of a thing, and you squeak out a win there. The Saints at home, I think, is a very winnable game. On the road in London, I think, is a winnable game. The maybe not the Falcons. I was going to say the Falcons, but I'm going to walk that one back. It's tough. I'm sorry, it's tough. There's not going to be many games on the schedule that the Giants are favored in.
No, and I hate being so down on my team. And we got a lot better this offseason, I think. Like bringing in Malik Neighbors was huge. The offensive line got significant upgrades. The defense brought in Brian Burns. Tyler Nubin's an exciting young safety rookie. This roster is better this year than it was last year. But because of the lack of an upgrade under center, it's really tough to be confident and to envision a bright future for this team in 2024. Now, again, I hope that Daniel Jones proves me wrong. I hope that Drew Lock proves me wrong. And, man, I hope Tommy DeVito goes in there and never looks back and becomes a franchise quarterback and wins 5 Super Bowl MVPs. But those things are what we hope for. Those things are not what we expect to happen. And if I really have to be unbiased and give you my take on the schedule, it looks very difficult for a New York Giants team that has struggled immensely over the past few years. And I just can't see them winning enough games to push their way into the postseason.
No, they're going to need a miracle. Daniel Jones. Hey, Daniel Jones takes the year 6 leap. We've been talking about it for months. All he's got to do is take that patented year 6 leap. And the Giants are a 10-win team in a bad NFC as a wild card spot. There you go. Fix them.
There you go. I mean, I guess it's possible if he plays like he played in 2022 with that astounding 15 passing touchdowns. Maybe just maybe the Giants make their way to 9 wins and sneak into the playoffs again. I guess it's possible, but it's just not something that I'm confident in.
No, I'm with you on that one. I think we got to do it now. Unfortunately, I got to do it to you. We got to take a look at these jerseys, Anthony. I'm very sorry that we're going to do this to you and put you on the spot, but we need your reaction to the New York Giants. Well, I mean, your reactions. I pulled up your account to do it. The caption, for those who can't see it, respectfully, I think these are hideous. Maybe they'll grow on me, but I'm not at all a fan of these new throwback uniforms right now.
Yeah, same sentiment as I tweeted at 10:06 a.m. I still think they're very ugly, and the more that I look at them, the less I hate the jerseys, the more I hate the pants. It's really the pants for me that throw this whole thing off. If those were white pants, make the numbers pop a little bit more, maybe they could be a bit better. I just overall, it's the pants.
Allie's calling you out. She says, when the leaks dropped, you said they were nice. What happened?
That's true. When the leaks dropped and we talked about it on the show, I remember in particular, I said they're not that bad. I didn't say they looked nice. So you're stretching it a little bit, Allie.
Yeah, you're a little bit more on the positive side than I would say the consensus. I wouldn't say I'll stick up for you as my co-host. I don't think you went as far to say as you liked them, but I think it was kind of more along the lines of that they weren't terrible. Now I do got to do this to you. Hang on, I gotta find a good. Here, we'll just do this.
I don't mind the helmets either. The helmet's kind of cool. Oh wow, that. Wow, I guess we're the
New York
Canadians.
Yeah, First State Jets said it is at the New York Canadians, but I've seen that in a few spots. It does drop, but I mean, like they're both from 100 years ago. The Canadians has had that jersey for forever, and the Giants uniforms are from that same. It's close. I do like. Okay, I'm gonna give some credit. I think the numbers look cool on the front and the back. I'll go there for the jerseys.
I think the helmet's kind of cool. It's like the Michigan Wolverines, but the Giants version. Like it's cool. It's interesting. And I like that we have red incorporated in our uniforms again. So that's fun. But it's really the pants, like just throw the whole thing off to me. And even with what Allie was talking about, that one edit that we pulled up and looked at, and maybe that edit did make it look a little bit cooler than this. It was much more of a metallic, like shiny. I remember the edit. It was much more metallic, shiny, and like darker tan on the pants. This very light tan beige. It's just not doing it for me. I don't like it. I don't like the black shoes with it either. I get it's the throwbacks. I get they're trying to honor the 100 years and 1933 and 1925 and all that crap. They don't look good. Daniel Jones looks like a dork in them. That's like number one, first and foremost. I hate the way that he looks in them. I can't stand the face that he's making in this picture. I'm just overall not pleased with them. I think they look very ugly, mainly because of the pants. But honestly, though, I think if there was white pants, makes the numbers pop a little bit more.
Yeah.
Probably don't look so bad. It's the tan pants ruin the whole look for me.
First State Jet says regular helmet and different pants would make it much better. So kind of on the same page there. If it was the regular helmet, even if it was the regular helmet with the NY and their like standard white pants, I think I still wouldn't love it, but it's an upgrade from this.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably an upgrade. I don't know though. I think the helmet's fine. I'm cool with the helmet. Just need yeah, good comment.
No matter what, not wrong.
I just think it's the pants though. I listen, white pants. I think they're fine, and then we could just be okay with it. But I don't know what that color is. I guess it's tan, but it's ugly.
Peter says, well, they are turning 100, but I think they called from the 1920s and said, don't use these. Kidding.
There's a reason that they haven't been worn in 90 something years.
Let me tell you from experience, I could empathize because it's bad enough when your team is bad, but when your uniforms are atrocious, like the 2020 Jets going 2-14 in the Adam Gase era uniforms, not fun. Really not fun. So I could empathize with you there. And even Kuka Lake said the same thing. Compared to the Jets' previous jerseys, these aren't awful. So could be worse.
Yeah, I guess it could be worse, but one thing that I wanted to be able to say this season was we can lose in style, like at least if we lose when we're wearing those legacy uniforms, those 80s throwbacks, we're losing in style. We're not losing in style in these things. We're just getting beat up on. We don't look good. We don't play well. Nothing stylish about it. My hope here, though, is that because of the pretty strong negative reaction to these uniforms, I think that there's going to be maybe an avenue here where the Giants go with a uniform redesign next year. That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe because I've been a big proponent of trying to revamp the primaries. I think it's just time for new uniforms.
Agree.
Yeah. And so maybe this will lead to that.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Like a modernized version of the 80s, 90s look, I think is the way to go. Like keeping the helmet color the same, but with that Giants logo on the side or something like that. Like there's a way here. Another one from Peter. Upside is you only get to use these alternates 3 times. So maybe they only use it versus the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in one other game. So, okay. How about this? We'll set the scene. It's Thanksgiving, Anthony. You're sitting down. You're getting ready to eat your favorite Thanksgiving food. You're settling in for Giants Cowboys. Giants roll out with these uniforms. And you're going into the half down 24-6. Did I predict the future, or does that feel a little too real, or am I being too pessimistic?
I think it's pretty realistic. I think you've got a good point to that.
I'm sorry. You've taken a beating in this episode. We love you here. I hope you know that.
Yeah, it's just makes it worse because the Jets got such cool uniforms this offseason, man. They look great. Jets are going to win and lose in style. The Giants, they're just boring with their primary uniforms, and now they have these monstrosities. I don't know. It's just not going to be pretty.
No, but maybe if you're going to be bad, can I give you a word of advice? Be horrendous. Don't just be like regular bad, because if they win 5 or 6 games, that doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. If you're going to be bad, go 2-14 or 2-15 now and get a top 3 pick and get your quarterback of the future.
Yeah, that's where we would like to go with it. But unfortunately, I don't think this roster is bad enough to go 2-14. And that's kind of going to be the glaring issue that arises, is that this roster isn't that bad and that they are probably just a quarterback away from being a competitive team. And whenever you are just a quarterback away from being a competitive team, you struggle to get in position to draft that quarterback and become that competitive team. And I fear that's probably what's going to happen with this New York Giants roster. So talent on both sides of the ball. I like some of the upgrades they made, but got to get the QB position right.
There we go. We're going to end on a positive note from a Jets fan. Peter here says 2025 Giants get new uniforms and hopefully a new quarterback and go off. See, we're not all bad. We're trying to give you some positive love and some positive mojo going into 2025. Maybe new coach, or are we sticking with Daboll here?
Well, depends what the record is, because if it ends up being the 2-14, like you just said, or 2-15, whatever, it's probably not going to be Brian Daboll. It's probably going to end up being Bill Belichick. But if they end up with 6 wins and they're competitive in a lot of those games, and it just becomes very obvious that the quarterback is the problem and Daboll needs his opportunity to get his hands on a good one, he probably sticks around and they draft a quarterback. Maybe they get new uniforms as well. Win in style with a new QB. It's totally possible.
You could always trade up for a quarterback. If there's one you like, you could always move up.
Pretty much all the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now were acquired via trade. If you want to look at Mahomes, if you want to look at Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, even pretty much all of them. I'm sure Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah, Lamar Jackson. They traded up back into the end of that first round. So you can go through pretty much all of them. CJ Stroud, I believe that was a trade as well, right? Didn't they trade up to 2? Or did they hold 2?
No. No, they lost the last game of the year, or won rather the last game of the year to drop from
right.
the 1 pick to the number 2. That's what it was.
That's right. But yeah, point still stands. You can go through a bunch of the quarterbacks. You got to make a trade. You got to be aggressive to go get your guy. The Giants tried to do it this offseason with Drake May. It didn't work out. next year, hopefully they do win some games, show that this roster is moving in the right direction, make your trade, go up, get your QB, move on from Daniel Jones, and then become contenders. That's the hope.
Happier times ahead. Don't you worry. But that's going to do it for us on this episode. We'll be back next week. I think we got some, at least for the Jets, some mini camp stuff going on next week. Anything Giants related going on?
I don't know. I think it's OTAs at the end of the month. I don't know. Soon enough, they'll be practicing. I'll just go with the flow there.
There we go. So we'll have another episode for you on Monday, guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us for our schedule release and roast of Anthony and the New York Giants. But that's going to do it for us on this episode. We'll catch you next time.